All right. There is something on the screen now. I have not seen this ahead of time. Just, I guess, know that. So this was sent to me. And we shall see. Can you guys still see it right now?
Yeah.
Okay, it goes black for me. All right, one sec. Normal BS. We're live streaming to Rumble. Cannot edit anything you say, so be mindful of what you say. Censored version, if necessary, will be available on YouTube on my normal channel. Please refrain from using specific places, names, descriptive terms in anything you share because I cannot take it out. It's out there forever. Also, try to not swear. This is mostly for me at this point because I am always the first person and usually the worst person in terms of swearing. So, Joe, please don't swear. Today, we're going to be talking about modesty. Again, trying to take it a little bit into a different route. Also, we have different people here, so we'll get some different inputs. The last one was really, really good. A lot of good points were brought up. A lot of things really made me kind of think. It was extremely interesting. So we're not going to run the timer tonight. I'll run it just myself, and after like 3 to 5 minutes, I'll tell you have a minute. I'm going to rudely interrupt you and just say 1 minute, and then, try to wrap it up so that we can bring somebody else in. Obviously, you can talk as many times as you want, especially if it stays this small. We can just circle and circle and circle. So, Modesty V2. This was sent to me. People are not happy after a Florida high school edited young girls' yearbook photos to cover their chests. And then I looked at it, and it's a bit crazy. A high school in Florida is facing criticism after it was revealed that the yearbook photos of female students were unwittingly altered to cover up their bodies. We are not going to read this entire thing, but just take... It's not that bad. Like, I'm a pretty big modesty guy, as we've learned. I'm very conservative in those things. I don't mean it politically. I mean it. I'm very conservative, just literally. I'm a big fan of modesty. I'm a big fan of people covering themselves up in almost any context. But as I looked through these earlier, I was like, this is a bit over the top. These are the full photos. So in some of them, there's not even cleavage showing. And this is just a horrid Photoshop. They like made another piece of her shirt and used a stretched cut Photoshop piece of the girl's shirt to cover herself up further. None of these to me come across as that wild. So to a point, I kind of get why people would be upset about it. Sure, they're young, they're minors, but like that's relatively conservative to me. Does anybody disagree? That seems pretty okay.
And that seems okay to me.
So no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they're going to do that, they should have told people ahead of time, and they should have already been like in the dress code so that they would have dressed. I mean, if she would have known they were going to do that, she might have worn something else.
Agreed. Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
I mean, they send out like a thing, right? When they're doing photos, like our company's doing it. They send out a thing ahead of time. They kind of tell you what to wear, what not to wear. And I feel like that should have been included. If they're going to be that strict about it, they should say like absolutely no cleavage whatsoever. But then even that one girl,
yeah,
she had no cleavage. She just like had her skin showing. So when I see stuff like this, I lean 100% in Mystic's direction and Rodriguez's direction, where like that's too far. That's over the top. That's kind of just funky. It's kind of just weird. And like, what is actually going on, right?
Yeah, the one at the top. If I was her, I wouldn't. Just because not many things bother me, but it wouldn't have bothered me. But that one right there, I would have been like, "What? No."
Because that seems awkward. And then I try to think of it, if that was my kid, and I got the pictures back, and it looked like that, I would be offended, kind of, because she's not showing cleavage. It's like it's not inappropriate, but the way they did that makes it look like she was dressed inappropriate. So like as a dad, I'd be kind of pissed off at the school because that makes it look way worse than it was.
Yeah.
I
right?
agree.
That's like the way that I
Agreed.
kind of see it. It's over the top. It's over the top. As long as it stays this small, you can everybody can just be unmuted. So Mystic, if you want, actually, do I have you muted? Yeah, I do. Sorry, Mystic, you're unmuted on my end now, at least. I thought that was funny. I was looking at this earlier, like I thought there had to be more, maybe, and there wasn't. It was all that same
So
crap.
sad.
Yeah, see, like that's not bad.
And like their parents are paying for
Right.
these photos.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If somebody just altered my photo without my permission, I would be very unhappy, even if I knew that there was a possibility of it happening. And then in a school setting, like that's why women and young girls specifically have such a hard time with their bodies, because our bodies are shamed to degrees that are different, granted, but that's why we have issues with it.
Right.
You're just perpetuating that. That's like
Yeah.
the bad Christian way of telling your daughters to not dress a certain way. And
Right.
there really wasn't anything wrong with how they were dressed.
No.
And you know how I am. Like, I don't want to see a woman's chest. Like, I don't, it's not for me. No disrespect to anybody, but it's not what I would like to walk down the street and be like, okay, wow, thanks, I guess, but like, there was nothing wrong with that. Like lawyers wear tank tops like that with a coat over of some kind, or like a blazer or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, what is the reason actually?
So where's the line for kids then? And obviously be mindful, but where, if say it's high school, so both girls and boys are relatively developed in most cases, call it senior photos, junior and senior year. What within a Christian context, again, because I feel like last time we talked about this, we strayed a lot into or out of a Christian context, which is fine, and we can talk about it. But within a Christian context, what is appropriate for young men and young women to wear for like a school photo, and why? Where's the line, and why does the line exist?
I feel like tank tops are pretty acceptable. And a lot of the times, like the high school that I went to, men were allowed to wear tank tops and females weren't. That's just how it was. And it was ridiculous.
Yeah, that kind of goes off. Mystic put in the chat. She said, I wish they posted the guys' photos, but then I realized that they probably didn't do anything to them. So then let's talk about that. Men don't have chests, right? Not like women. So what could they have done to censor guys? Nothing really, right? I mean, even in like I unbutton my shirt to my chest, there's really nothing to see but my skin. So why is one okay? Why is one not okay? Should they, Mystic, do you think they should have done something to the guys? Like, say guys had the same scenario. Say it was a guy and they had their shirt, like, I have my shirt buttoned down just below my chest. Is that appropriate? Is it not appropriate? If a guy's got a button up and they do 3 buttons down, like, beach style, should that be censored?
I mean, I personally don't think that either is wrong, but whatever you do to one, you have to do to the other.
But what if there's
Like,
nothing to do?
Then don't do anything. Like, I don't know. Like, if you're going to have the same rules for the girl, like all this thing, like you have to cover up for the girls, then you have to do it for the guys. But if you're not, then like, don't, you either do it to everybody or not do it to anyone.
So then break it down a little bit further. Why do we want to do it at all? And I know you said you don't agree with doing it at all. So what if literally just above a woman's nipples is where her shirt stops as a junior in high school? Is that appropriate or is it not appropriate, and why?
I mean, I'd say not appropriate, but I'd say the same thing for guys. I mean, because some girls, like when they see a guy that works out, and of course, or he's got hair and they're like a hairy chest, if they see it, they're like, oh. So, I mean, both ways, it's something that might, I guess to say it in the simplest terms, might turn on the other gender and make them act on it. I guess that's kind of why, they kind of why they do that. So I could see why you would do it to both, but
I think
don't know.
that's really hard to answer, because if somebody, like if a girl is purposely, especially in junior high, like purposely doing something like that, then it's like it's not even in a Christian context, because all the real Christian girls, like real like they wouldn't do that. They don't do that. Like I know my experience, like in junior high and everything, the girls who said they were a Christian but definitely weren't, like did that in my youth group, but all the ones who actually were Christians did. So I don't know.
I'll play devil's advocate, extreme other side again. If like you're saying just above the nipple, so like what if they just put like a sticker, something just over the nipple, and then just wore like didn't wear a shirt or something? That's pretty much the same thing. I mean, their belly isn't just gonna make it more attractive. I mean, it could be, I guess, but you're mainly talking about, the breast area. So
Yeah.
if you can see most of it when their shirt's all the way down like that, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's inappropriate.
But like that, I don't know. Like it's like this whole argument is so rare for like a girl like that in church that to even happen.
Yeah, agreed.
So like for a girl to show off her whole chest like that in church, it's so rare that I don't even like. There's so many other problems in this subject that are more important than that. That it's like I don't know how to talk about that.
I thought, Joe, weren't you going for just school, or were you going for in church? I thought.
I mean, it was
about, like in general, or
it was to school, but you can definitely take it to church. But I mean, I agree that it's probably much less likely to be an issue in a church.
I'm sorry. It's just that whenever you said like within a Christian context, that's why I was thinking youth or something.
Oh, no. So, and I get why you said that, but no, to me, within a Christian context is anywhere, anytime, doing anything, because that's what actual Christianity is, right? If Christianity was a church, which is what what you guys heard me call, that is what lukewarm people think Christianity is going to church on Sunday. To me, Christianity is absolutely, it's when I go to a job site, it's when I go to the store, it's everywhere you go, anywhere you go, whoever you're around, doesn't matter. Church is just one of those places. So just within more or less the ideological framework within Christianity, right? We have a very specific ideology as opposed to culture, as opposed to society, as opposed to other religions. We have set morals, we have set values, we have set literal texts that tell us what is right, what is wrong, what is okay, where we come from, where we're going. So that is a Christian context to me. Within those understandings, that ideology, to me, Christian context has absolutely nothing to do with geography. It could be anywhere, with anyone, any age. But within the context of I'm a Christian, I believe these things about the world, about morality, about men, about women, about marriage, about relationships, about sex. So in that framework of mind, this is how I view modesty, because modesty is hard to make any sense of outside of a Christian framework, just like morals. They're very hard things to make any sense out outside of a Christian context. Without an objective source of values being God, it's really hard to argue morality. Why is anything right or wrong if we evolved from fungus or if we evolved from apes? And if nothing inherently gives us meaning, why is anything right or wrong? Why is killing someone wrong? That makes no sense. I've yet to hear anybody explain to me in a rational way why having sex with 1,000 people and not giving a crap about any of them is immoral unless you draw it from God, because it doesn't make sense. So modesty to me is one of these things that it only makes sense within some kind of framework where we believe things have value, and being immodest removes some of that inherent value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because I was thinking of why is it okay for a man to walk outside with the shirt off, but oh my goodness, if a female does that, like it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah. And we spoke briefly about that last week. Mystic, do you want to say anything about that? I think
don't
you
know.
did.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I was just thinking about what you just said. I'm
Well,
confused.
go off of that then, and then I'll bring up Shannon's question again in a minute.
Like of what you just said about the morality thing.
Yeah, because that's where modesty comes from. Modesty is a moral issue.
I think it's super easy to find objective morality outside of Christianity or like any religion as a whole, because there are some things that like physically and scientifically are very negative and very harmful, like killing someone. Obviously, like that takes someone else's life, like it makes you play God or whatever. Like you're so objectively, like morally wise or whatever, like that's wrong for people to do.
Why? But why? That's not an answer though. Why is that wrong? Killing someone, yeah, they die, but so what?
Because you took away their autonomy. You took away their consent. Like they didn't want to die, but you did it for them, and it's like their life.
But why do I care? They don't have value. God is what gives humans value. Otherwise, they don't have value. We kill animals all day, every day. So if you don't believe in a God or in something that gives humans some kind of value that is above animals, then that's logically inconsistent. It doesn't make sense, because that means you're just an animal. So why can't I kill you?
Coming from, but I have a better example that my friend said to me once, and I found it was kind of hard to defend just because he was making good points. But the murder one, I mean, I don't know, man, that's going a little far.
But why?
Yes, animals kill each other, but they usually do it to survive, to eat the meat. I mean,
but that's not always true. Animals kill each other just because. There's plenty of animals that will murder another animal and walk away. That happens. Have you heard of the orca? What's that?
Have you ever heard of the orca?
That's a great example. They kill just to kill. Yeah, cats will kill just to kill. Big cats, little cats. We have cats. They will try to kill things and then do nothing with it. Yep. So I get the argument. And obviously, I've had this argument with atheists a million times. I've yet to hear anything where I was like, and I'm pretty open to being like, damn, that's a good argument. I need to think about it. I'd still believe what I believe and wouldn't believe what they said. But I have no problem like recognizing that makes sense. And I need to refine the way that I go about thinking about this. But I've never heard a good one. If you don't have value from God, why does your life matter at all?
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I feel like you kind of were alluding to because animals do it, then it's natural and it's okay. But it's like there are so many things that are natural that like cause harm. So that just means that we live in a world that isn't good, isn't okay.
Sure, but harm and death have nothing to do with ethics or morals. Morals are derived from value. So you have to be able to assign value to the life form and be able to coherently back why it's valuable. So, I mean, I would argue animals are valuable. If certain species of animals die out, literally everything on this planet will die. We still kill a lot of them. And we justify the reasons and whatever. But even the most important things that are living on this planet that allow everything else to survive, we still kill and we justify it. But they have value. But our reasoning is that we are humans, we are intelligent, and we have to do certain things to expand and build up and whatever. But
I feel like people who don't believe in God and an afterlife, I feel like their life should be even more important to them because that's all they got. That's the only time they got, and then they, in their mind, they're done.
Yeah, and I think that reflects in the way they live because it's usually relatively selfish. Not always, for sure, but relatively.
So you'd be taking their only time.
Yeah, it's all they have. That's what people say. The whole YOLO thing, right? You only live once. Do whatever you can, whatever you can. And usually what that ends up turning into is somebody behaving in a very selfish way because you're just concerned about you and getting the most that you can out of life. But there has to be value. For something to be wrong, you have to be able to say why it's wrong. And the reason that I believe modesty is correct or important, and I'm not crazy about the modesty thing, but like we talked about on Sunday, I think some things matter. And the only reason I can say that I think that with any confidence behind it is that I believe the Bible. I believe what God says about women. I believe what God says about men. I believe what God says about how we're to look at each other, how we're not to sexually lust after each other, how we're to save these certain things for one specific individual that you dedicate your entire life to. And the reason I believe all that is because I believe God has given us all value. He's given our bodies value. He's given the act of sex, being a private, special thing, value.
Like, I completely 1,000,000% agree. But then you have the things like lusting. Like, some people have a foot fetish, so should people not wear sandals?
No, yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point. Let's do that. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, some people think certain body parts are, attractive that most people are like, what? So,
yeah. I mean, there's no way to win that.
This is literally why I have such a hard time with this, because it feels like whenever there's a problem like this, everybody always goes for modesty. Well, like, what was she wearing? Or like things like, it's always about what you think is appropriate. It feels like it's super superficial and like not getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the way I look at it, just that makes it easy for me. I know I'm not a girl and I've never had, that experience. But the way I look at it is like when, like, I have my family, I have my friends, and I'm happy. So if somebody I don't know or something says something mean or thinks something, like, I really don't care. Like, if it was something like, you obviously, Mystic, don't dress badly. You say you wear things that some people think is bad, but I mean, you don't. So if somebody thinks it is, I mean, that's their problem. I mean, you're not walking around with, stuff hanging out, as we said, last time. So if it were me, and I mean, I know I'm different. I'm not you. I'm not somebody else. But I just feel like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I just go on my way.
What do you think the core problem is, Mystic? Because that's what you had just said. That we're on the surface. We're not going deep enough. So what is the deep enough?
It always feels like it's always talked about and preached that like modesty is the most important thing and that women have to cover up, and there's so many rules. I mean, like everything we've been talking about, especially last time too, this entire time we've always been trying to delegate, like we keep delegating what's okay and what's not, when the root of the problem is people looking at others and thinking that they're entitled to have some sort of authority or opinion over their body. Like I'm not advocating at all for people to just walk around wearing nothing or like the craziest things. But it's like the majority of the time, it's clothes that aren't even that huge of a problem that this scenario is coming up with. Like, I mean, actually, wait, there's this one thing. So in April was Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Yeah. And at the end of it, I think it was on the 24th. I don't remember. But Denim Day is a thing because, oh my gosh, I don't have the thing in front of me. But it's essentially where this girl was raped. She was sexually assaulted, and the court did nothing about it and essentially said, well, her jeans were so tight that she had to have given consent and helped the suspect take them off because they were so tight he couldn't have done it by himself. So like, because she was wearing that, it's like not that big of a deal. Like she was asking for it essentially. And so now Denim Day is like, we all wear denim and stuff because like she was literally wearing skinny jeans, like denim, like jeans, like a full thing of jeans, not lingerie. Not so why is the problem always, well, she was dressed like this, or why is the problem always, well, women can't wear tight clothes or women can't show this? Like, well, can men not be gross? Cannot men do stuff? Can men just not do stuff like that? And the root of the problem is literally like, we're literally raising these boys, like saying like, oh, well, boys will be boys. Or if he likes you, that means, or if he hits you, it means he likes you. Or like all, it feels like within this context about modesty, all of the responsibility is on the girl's shoulders. And I thought that men were supposed to be the protectors. Like, why do I have to protect a man that I don't even know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. But you're also conflating two things. Like, you're taking this extreme example in which you and I, we're 100% on the same page. Anybody who commits sexual assault, even if a woman is naked, in my personal opinion and belief, they should be executed and buried under the prison. I don't care if she's in lingerie. I don't care if she's butt ass naked. People who commit sexual assault should die. It's one of the most heinous crimes that can happen beyond things similar that have to do with children. I believe these people should not be allowed to be in society. If they want to have their own little colony, cool. But that's best case. Worst case, bury them. Because they're an absolute danger and they're awful. But at the same time, you're blaming men 100%. You're giving women absolutely no blame whatsoever. And you're not willing to kind of see that there's anywhere in the middle. Going to extremes on either side is obviously not beneficial, and it's not going to get anybody anywhere. Women have a responsibility within a Christian context. We're not talking about secular. We're not talking about society. If you believe the Bible, if you believe what God says about sex, if you believe what God says about things that have to do with modesty values, then you believe both men and women have responsibilities to guard their body. And the reason is partially self-respect, but the bigger reason is because your body is not your own. When you meet someone that you spend your life with, your body belongs to them. And it's not just the woman, it's both. The Bible is extremely clear about it. It's not just her. Her body is not a playground for the man. His body is equally in belonging to her. So if either party, like we talked about last week, if I go to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. in super tight stuff and then flexing in front of mirrors, I am disrespecting Kat. I would never do that. Am I free to do that? Sure. If women look at me, would I be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're looking at me? Well, no shit. I'm standing in front of a mirror. I'm flexing in public. And I'm wearing a shirt that clings to my skin or that cuts right around my chest and makes me look like you're not asking for it, but you are making it available upon just a minor glance. So there's absolute responsibility on what the individual wears and then how society reacts to that. Does that ever mean that someone can physically touch you? No, bury them. But does that mean people can look at you? Like you have this whole thing too right now where all these TikToks are going viral of women screaming at men in gyms because men are looking at them or asking if they need help racking the weights. Not to say some of those men aren't absolute pigs, and not to say I haven't seen the videos where the guy 100% deserved it. But there are also tons of viral videos where it's just a woman losing her mind on a guy who said something totally respectful and normal. She just didn't want the attention. But at the same time, she's got cameras set up to post to social media. You want attention. And at the other, you have a lot of these videos where you can hear the girl talking to herself or to her friend about trying to get the attention. So I don't like this thing where we blame women for guys lusting or for guys committing sexual atrocities, because that is not their fault. No woman should ever be touched because she's dressed a certain way. I don't agree with dressing scantily, but never does that ever justify a woman being touched. But at the same time, women are doing similar things to men and putting them in situations where they feel comfortable reaching out to them or trying to hit on them, which is a normal, okay thing, as long as it's done respectfully. And then they're putting them on blast on social media, calling them pigs in certain situations where they're not. They're kind of set up. And I don't know if that's just a thing that's going through social media right now, but a lot of the women are ending up looking really, really bad. So I don't like the thing where we blame guys as being total pieces of shit and pretend like women have no part in it whatsoever. A woman who's assaulted has no part in that whatsoever. But a woman who dresses in certain ways and then gets pissed if guys look at her, that's on her. Because men are attracted to women. Men are sexual creatures. And guys who are single or guys who are not Christian are going to notice that. And they're going to look at people. There's like, there has to be a little give and take. Otherwise, it just seems a little bit ridiculous. Like guys are just pigs. And I don't believe that. A lot of guys are definitely just pigs. But not all guys. I notice if a girl is dressed down to almost nothing. Because it's hard not to notice that. So then if I were to ever get called out for that, of being a pig for noticing that a woman like barely has any clothes on in a grocery store, I'm not a pig. I'm seeing something that is abnormal and usually trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
I mean,
Feel-
yeah, I do
Agree.
agree with all that. It's just,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna let you talk. I just said I feel like you were mainly just getting it like that. You probably agree with most of what Joe just said as well. But what I'm understanding is you feel like society is usually like it's the woman, like all the rules, like at school with that low top stuff and the shorts, and it's all towards women. Like there's no
Y-
same rule for men. Is that kind of like
I,
that's what kind of makes you mad?
yeah, that, yeah, basically. But also, what he was saying, like, it sounds like there's more than just the modesty too. Because if she's behaving that way, then that means it's like a heart thing as well,
Exactly.
obviously.
100%.
I
So
agree.
in my, I'm going to speak just from my experience, obviously, right now. I have never been like physically like inappropriately touched or whatever, but I've had people like look at me and say things that made me feel disgusting and bad inside. But the problem here is that never in my life have I ever deliberately put on clothes that I was like, yeah, this will get attention, and then went out and behaved in a way that would get me attention. It just like happened sometimes. So it's like, so, like I, especially some girls' bodies, like there sometimes it's really impossible to like 100% be covered up all the time, or like if something happens, like I don't know, in my life I just feel like I'm not even, I like bend down or something, or I am just walking down the street and then someone has something to say and I'm like, whoa. And then that sits with me and I will remember that forever and I feel disgusting. And now I'm scared to wear those clothes again, you know? So it's like in like getting upset at like girls who like dress in a certain way or like trying to police them or anything. It's like, but some of them like don't even think about that, or I don't know. It just feels a little bit like, well, where's their heart at? Like, what's going on? You know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just like there are guys who will hit on and make girls feel uncomfortable and or sexually assault them, who are dressed relatively or fully, what you might label appropriately. In the same way, there are plenty of women who do get dressed every day, looking for attention. How can I get seen? I want to be sexualized. It's hard to identify with something that you are not. So you being you, with all of your life experiences, it might be hard for you to identify with the fact that there's ample evidence, whether it be social media or just being out in public. Like I gave you guys examples on Sunday, where there is no way around. These women are trying to get attention. In the same way, there are just as many men who will objectify a woman who's dressed perfectly fine by any standard. Kind of like what you're saying, maybe by whatever you're referring to, where you got these comments. There are still always going to be men who even the modest woman bends over and she's objectified by that man. The moral of the story is all people suck or have the potential to suck. It doesn't matter what's between your legs. Plenty of women suck. Plenty of men suck and have bad intentions. And like you said, at the end of the day, and we talked about it on Sunday, it's all a condition of the heart, in my opinion. I think women who seek attention have a poor condition of the heart. I also think they lack self-respect. I think men who objectify women are either self-conscious or maybe not that intelligent, from all my personal experiences. The more dumb the guy is, the more he objectifies women. That's been just my life experience. The more intelligent men I've been around, the more they seem to respect women. So I don't know how much that has to play on it, but some people are just disrespectful and some people are not. But it all comes down to a condition of heart. And we talked about it at length on Sunday. But I feel like people who have self-respect seem to, on average, dress a certain way and behave a certain way. And people with no self-respect seem to do the absolute opposite. And I don't know exactly where that all comes from or why it is, but in my personal anecdotal experience, it's been almost 100% accurate. People who I'm like, damn, I respect you, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the words that you say, how thoughtful you are, how much you really think things through. Those people end up not being people who dress like that, man or woman. Like the whole gym thing we talked about on Sunday too. Either way, man or woman. And then the less self-respect someone has, the less confident they are, the more self-conscious they are, And sometimes the less intelligent they are, it seems like those are the people who fit these molds of objectifying women, sexual assault towards women. It seems to be like there's these categories. Don't know why, but it seems to be.
Like, I find it attractive. Like my wife, she doesn't wear makeup. Maybe just a little, but she doesn't have to do all that. And she didn't. I mean, she could have, and maybe she would have found somebody better than me. I don't know. But I find it attractive with kind of the modesty thing. I mean, she doesn't show it all out and get all, I don't know, try to do like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, Drew, actually, because I haven't had a guy on here for Sunday. So let me ask you a question. If your wife were to, I'll ask you two questions. If your wife were to go out of the house with or without you in a shirt that was cut just above like the nipple, so not like a normal tank top, but like low cut, and it was so incredibly tight, you could see all of the curves of her breasts. And then she also had short shorts on where a part of her ass was hanging out the bottom. How would that make you feel? And then the part two is if you had leggings, because you missed this part, I think. If you as a male wore leggings and pretended socially acceptable to where your junk, you could see every outline, every curve, the whole size, the whole shebang, every little bit and detail of it. Would you be okay with your wife dressing that way? And would your wife be okay with you dressing that way?
No for both. I was here for that part, the legging part.
It
would definitely have to be hypothetical, because if you knew my wife, she would never do that.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, hypothetically, yeah, I would not be happy about that. Like you said, I feel like she'd be disrespecting us both.
And why? Why?
I don't know. I mean, it's especially worse when you're married, because you're married. You're one person now. You're only for each other, and that's kind of displaying yourself for. I mean, it's got to be for somebody else, especially if she's going out alone. But when you're dating, I know that's not marriage, but I still feel like you're trying to get that relationship with one person. So I feel like that would be disrespectful, just because you're trying to get the allure. That extreme, I feel like you're trying to get the gaze of somebody else, or maybe keeping your options open to find something better.
So then, devil's advocate, what if, because this is something that you obviously hear a lot, well, it's not to get attention from the opposite sex, it's because it makes me feel good. What if that was what you got told, or what if that's what you told your wife? What would she say to that? Or what if she said that to you? It just makes me feel good.
I feel like we wouldn't have gotten married in the first place, but if she changed that, like after we got married, I don't know. We definitely have to talk about that. I'd probably, if she's looking elsewhere to feel good, I'd probably ask her, or try to work out, like, well, how can I do something in your life, or our lives, that would make you feel good to where you didn't have to seek that somewhere else?
Yeah,
I suppose. And I feel like you said, the guys, that's totally inappropriate too. The tight whatever. But
I have like a question for that though.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, people always, so like, okay, if someone drinks a lot of alcohol all the time, and someone who's sober is like, well, why would you even do that? And they say, well, it makes me feel good. And then, like, later on, like, they get sober or whatever, wow, they feel so much better. So alcohol, like, can make them feel like really sick. It does literal damage to your body. It's poison. Like, our body can't even process ethanol and everything. So obviously there's a clear reason to stop drinking if you're addicted to it and it's hurting your body. I don't understand, like, if a woman like dresses that way, what is she trying to avoid if she's stopping? Because if you're drinking alcohol like that, you're avoiding dying. You're avoiding getting sick. So if a woman stops dressing like that, what is she avoiding?
Okay, well, I guess two things. One, if you drink alcohol in moderation, it doesn't do really that much damage. I don't drink. I'm 100% sober from everything, but you can drink in moderation and be fine. So for the dressing, It's if are they married? Are they dating? Are they single? It kind of changes the answer, but let's call it an extreme case of modesty where to me, it doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum. If you're in a relationship and are a Christian, outside of Christianity, the entire game changes. But within a Christian context, one, you're going against the Bible. So the better question is, how do you justify doing that and saying you're a Bible believing Christian? It's antithetical to what the Bible teaches about the value of your sexual self. It's kind of cut and dry to me.
Yeah,
That means
to
you're.
go. She just texted me, but I was gonna say, like, I know at least my wife thinks, like, the day before, even like what she's gonna wear the next day. Like, she thinks about it, like, which shoes. So then it depends on low top socks, high socks, socks, and then panty line, what kind of underwear you need to wear. But like, I know that she thinks about it way ahead. So I know people think about what they're going to wear, and usually they think about it because they think about where they're going to be, who they're going to be meeting. So I feel like there is some thought behind it, other than it just makes me feel good. Like the extreme cases where a single woman who's going out with everything hanging out. I mean, there's no way she was like, oh, I just put this on because it makes me feel good. Like it probably makes her feel good because she likes getting the attention. But extreme cases here, and I'm not talking about just something that might be tight. I'm talking about the things hanging out on purpose.
Yeah.
Don't murder me.
I don't know, man. I just, like, most of the men I know, and then myself, who like have their stuff together, know who they are confident, spend a lot of time building themselves up, are very focused in life, very driven, very motivated, know what's up, know what they want. I would never give that type of girl, and again, we're talking relatively extreme, I would never give that type of girl a second glance, because to me, it immediately says she doesn't respect herself and she wouldn't respect me. Because I think even if you're out of a relationship, and again, let's go boys and girls, doesn't matter. If either one dresses in a way that reveals themselves and we're both single, why would she change that when we got together? And who is she trying to attract? Because if it's someone like me, I'm not going to be for 1 second attracted to that. I'm going to be attracted to a woman who doesn't feel like she needs to do that to get attention from men. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it seems unnecessary. Yeah. So even when you're married, or especially when you're married, like, that's mine and I am hers 100%. And if I dress in a certain way, even if it just does, like, I do go to the gym and I do work out and I'm relatively fit. So I do like wearing shirts that like cut my arm right, because I work very hard for that. And like, it does make me feel good. So I get the argument, but I still, there's a line where, like, one seems like I'm trying to show the world I'm hot. And then there's another where, like, I'm proud of the work that I do. And it's a thin line, but to me, it's there. So there's certain shirts I will not wear out of the house. I just wear them here. There's certain shirts I'll only wear to the gym. And then there's things I'll wear when I'm just with Kat. There's a difference to me, because there's no world in which I would ever want Kat to feel like I'm putting myself out there and hoping or wishing or even making it just more plausible because I look more physically fit or attractive, that I want that kind of attention from anybody who's not her. And so it would go in reverse, I guess, for me too. I don't even know. Did that even answer your question?
Back to, like, I'm about to go. Sorry, I'll be out of y'all's here. I was going back to what you said in the beginning with the, like, if you saw a woman dressed that way, you're automatically not even attracted.
Mm-hmm.
Same here. Like, my wife she wouldn't, like, if you would have, when we were in high school, if you would have put up your typical, how they dress, like, cheerleader, and then had my wife standing next to them, like, if I'd never met either one before, I'm gonna go chat up the not cheerleader, like the one that dresses that way. I'm not interested. That's not attractive to me. Once we're married, and if she wants to wear something, a little more like that, like when we go out to dinner or something, to get all dressed up, that's fine. But
Yeah.
like you said, I'm automatically turned off by the on purpose, trying to show things thing.
Yeah. And I mean, what is she missing? That's one of the other things I think when I see somebody dress like it's not always like immodesty either, but when people are dressed in I guess if it just seems like you try really, 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 really hard, but especially if it's also in an immodest way, my initial thought, and I do understand, I want to make this clear too to everybody for sure. I understand I'm super far on the spectrum. Like I'm very traditional in these contexts. So, and I get that. I get it's not normal. I get it's not average. I fully get that. But if I see somebody who's trying really, really hard in an immodest manner, my first thought is like, wow. But my second thought is, what are you missing? Are you not that smart? Are you not that thoughtful? Like, what do you not have that makes you feel like you need to overcompensate with your body? Because otherwise, to me, again, is super traditional. Your body is like this mystical, magical thing that whoever ends up with you, that lucky person, like you unwrap the present and it's this wild thing. But if everybody's seen most of it already, and I saw most of it before I even talked to you for the first time, then it's not that special. And then when we get married, it's not that special. It's just like, I already saw that. I've already been seeing that. Everybody else sees that every day.
I had another question about that too.
Yeah, go.
This is like also kind of bordering the idea of holding non-believers to the same degree that we're supposed to hold ourselves. Like this is like a genuine question that I don't know. Just because of things that I've been traumatized because of Calvinism. Like if a believer, so if they believe in the Bible and if they believe in God, they have to be held accountable like to the Bible. But like people who don't believe in God, why does it give us, like, we don't have the right to judge them or hold them to our standards? Like, I feel like if you look at someone in public, you don't know anything about them. So it's like, if you're looking at them and being like, wow, like, what's wrong with you? Or like, you're judging them in any kind of way like that, isn't it kind of wrong? Because they're probably not a believer, so you can't hold them to the same standards that we have.
No, I agree. And I think I mentioned it last week or Sunday that everybody judges. Anybody who says I don't judge people is a liar, because even if it's just subconscious, you judge people all day, every day. It's how we survive. It's how every animal survives, is by judgment. So yeah, but mine are wrong because I do consciously judge people. But as soon as I catch myself, I move on. It's not like I don't like feeling like that. I don't like being annoyed with things that I'm seeing. So the minute I notice something that is displeasing to me, it processes and then I move on. Because one, what the hell do I care? What do I care how random people are dressing? It worries me from a societal front. It worries me for like the individual, because again, like what are you missing? Did somebody hurt you? Did you go through something? Like we talked about some of this stuff on Sunday. A lot of times trauma results in people acting and behaving a certain way that is consistent with the trauma. So like those things cross my mind, but it's never like ew, that girl's gross, or like, oh, I judge, I process, I move on. Because you're right. Christians are not called to judge people who are not Christian, but we're 100% called to judge Christians. That's also why I keep trying to push us into a Christian context, because within a Christian context, this conversation is cohesive. Outside of that, it makes absolutely no damn sense because of the same like moral thing. Modesty is a moral issue, and it makes no damn sense if Christians are going around judging secular people about anything, whether it's modesty or anything. There's no way to cohesively judge them. It's kind of a crazy concept.
I also on top of that, like, it's like if within a Christian, like everybody is a Christian, like if I were to dress weird and my husband was right there, and then like, I mean, we just kind of talked about this, but like in a different way, like the person, like another Christian is like, why are you wearing that? It's making me feel uncomfortable. Like, we're not supposed to dress like that. It's like, but like, how do you have authority over my body because like I'm married?
He doesn't,
you know?
but he can judge you.
I'm not saying, and I'm not saying like that's okay. I'm just like,
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I still, since it has to do with marriage and since it has to do with bodies like that, like it's like we're not together, or like this person judging me, like we're not together, and like I don't know, it's my own body, it's not your, like like you don't have the authority over any to have that type of opinion, you know?
well, if you're married, it's not your own body. You share it, right? So I guess within that context, it's depending on, again, how much of the gender role thing you take and how much you believe about any of that. But within a Christian context, it should be more of like a conversation where, like, that's an interesting choice of clothing. Can you talk to me about that? I do think Christians should do that. If it's something obvious that doesn't align with what a Christian is doing, and the reason that has gotten so muddy is because, like we've talked about 1,000 times, the vast majority of the Christian space is not Christian. They're Christian in title alone. They're not Christian in practice. So I would never go around to churches full of lukewarm people who they don't understand any of the Bible. They just listen to whatever a pastor says. And in many of those cases, the pastor is wrong or giving his opinion on things, but calling it fact. But if you're going to go into a Christian space that is not truly a genuine Christian space and judge them or tell them how to do anything, it's like fruitless. It makes no sense. You have this group of people who are already doing all sorts of things they shouldn't be doing that are against the Bible. So why even pick out the modesty thing? Like, with somebody who's doing all sorts of things that are outside of a Christian context, I would never go waste my time and talk to them about what they're wearing. Like, there are way more important things than that. I would talk to them about theology. I would talk to them about, like, do you believe Jesus was God? Because there's a massive amount of Christianity that is moved away from that. So I would be much more worried about, like, fundamental Christian doctrine, and then say it's a church where these people are dedicated Christians and they really do read the Bible and they really do dig in deep and do all their, due process. Then maybe approach a clothing thing. But Christianity in and of itself is derailed as could be. So the clothing thing is definitely low on the totem pole. But within us here, like, you are all people who are not within that lukewarm space. So then it becomes a conversation to me. I would never do it at a random church.
Yeah.
Because there are bigger problems.
So that means that, like, within Christian spaces of true Christians, it should be a rare discussion. It should be a rare thing, not nearly as frequent as it is now, and not nearly as, like, shameful as it is now with especially middle school, high school girls, right?
I guess it depends. It depends. So within, like, a strictly Christian context, perhaps, but then you get into some of the stuff that we kind of talked about on Sunday, where does immodesty cause problems, whether it's right or wrong? So take your extreme example of the sexual assault. Would it, and I guess even that's hard to do. If all she was doing was wearing skinny jeans, like, there's no way to have any sort of issue with that. So let's say a woman was wearing something more on the immodest side, where it was super low cut, or maybe shorts where her ass was hanging out. She's got the right to wear that 100%. Should we encourage young women to wear it? I don't think we should. My opinion is obviously because I'm super traditional and blah, blah, blah. But the more coherent societal arguments that people might be able to make would be like, we do live in a broken world. We do live in a world where a lot of men are disgusting. We do live in a world where, obviously, even sometimes when women are assaulted and go to court, the guy gets off because her jeans were too tight, which is a fucking joke. But regardless, the reality of that being a joke didn't change the reality that he got off and she was blamed. So whether it's moral or immoral or right or wrong, we live in a society, we live in a world where that stuff is happening. So should we encourage women to put themselves in situations where things bad can happen to them? No. Does it mean that's right? No. It's still wrong. Should we live in a perfect world where women could walk around naked and never have to fear assault? Yes, absolutely. But we don't. So you get into this much more difficult conversation of beyond what is right, what is wrong, and more into what is real, what is reality, regardless of morals, regardless of our idealistic view of society and of how men should behave and how men should respect women. But we live in the real world where they don't. They don't always. And less than ever. Like, you have that story out of Philadelphia last year where a woman was literally raped on the subway. And what do people do? They record it. Nobody helped her. Nobody dropped his ass. They recorded it. Is that right? Hell no. But is it real? Sure is. Should women be able to walk the streets without a gun or without a knife, without being able to protect themselves somehow? Yes. Can they? No. So I'd say that gets much tougher, because then you have to kind of drop what should be, what could be, and talk about what is. And what is broken more than ever, where now people will record you with their cell phone being sexually assaulted before they'll step in to help you, which is super sad. But I feel like once you take it out of that Christian context, you kind of get into, whether you like it or not, that context of morality gone and what is real. Oh, good. Yeah. If you guys are smack talking and you don't want it to be on the recording, then yes, that is the place to do it. If you want, if you want to get in, or you want any of what you're saying to be on the recording, then you got to do it in the other place. But Mystic, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I just have some very, yeah. I was gonna say something super spiteful and like lighthearted.
Go ahead.
Serious. Well, then it just sounds like we should just like lock up and get rid of all men. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Don't say that. Don't say that. We need a reform, though. We need a reform. But it's also not just men committing crimes. So take it out of sexual crime. It applies to everything.
But like stats, but
No. You misunderstood me. 90% of sexual crime is men. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying take it out of sexuality. Crime. A lot of women commit crime. Yes, it's still drastically less, but there's a lot of them. So if we're just going to talk about criminals in general, yeah, they should all go somewhere, which they do. But the problem is we let them out a lot now, and the sentencing is weird, and things have gotten kind of odd with the criminal justice system. But that's why I say anybody who commits a sexual offense should just be executed. Because statistics have shown that people who commit sexual crimes are almost always going to continue to commit sexual crimes. And within our country, these people do not get long prison sentences. I was in prison with people who committed sexual crimes, and they got in, came back, got out, came back several times while I never got out. And they just come and they come and they come and they come and they come, whether it's against kids or just women or against men. The criminal justice system is not geared towards either rehabilitating, but it's also not geared towards keeping them off the streets. They get very low sentences. They get time served. Like there's nothing really stopping people from committing those crimes. So how about we really punish the men who do assault women, who do sexually abuse women? Let's do that. Let's just keep them out of society. And then I think things might improve, whether out of fear or because they're just literally not allowed to be in society anymore. Because there's a lot of good men out there too. So we don't want to just get rid of all the men, in my opinion.
I personally love men a lot. I don't like pedophiles though, but otherwise I pretty much love men. I just wanted to put that out there.
It's a lot of good ones.
I do also want to say that I'm really trying, because I feel like the past few years I have definitely not felt that way. And so I think like I can remember saying so many times like, oh, I just hate all men. Like they're all just so stupid. If they weren't here, then everything would be fine. And then my husband would be like, but like, and I'd be like, oh, wait, no, okay, I guess I don't mean that. And so the past like few months and everything, like I've been definitely like feeling different about that and like changing about that. But
it's all just who you hang out with, man. Like, I feel
Yeah.
the same way about Christians. And then I bit the bullet and started doing all this crap again. And I met a bunch of phenomenal people, being all of you, which has dramatically changed my overall outlook of Christianity, because my reach is not that far right now. So that if there's this many of you, there's so many more. And the same thing could be applied to that. Like, you just have to find the good ones. They're out there, but it's sadly like increasingly become less and less. People are becoming shittier and shittier, more unreliable. And I believe
like
it's
a lot of
because
it has
people
to
are
do-
getting away from God. What, Shannon?
I feel like a lot of it has to do with parenting too. Like if you let your son or your daughter get away with, something over and over and over again, what makes them think that they can get away with, that they will not get away with it, in the court of law? You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. We haven't talked about that at all.
Yeah.
Parenting is a huge problem, it's specifically with the men thing, because the reality is that, actually, no, it's not specifically, it's either way. The reality is that men who grow up without a father in the home don't have that example. And then men who grow up with a shitty father in the home have a horrible example. So either way, the guy doesn't have that good of a chance of turning out that good. And on the woman's
Right.
side, you have the same thing. Women who don't grow up, or girls who don't grow up with a strong father in the home, who she gets to see how he respects her mom and gets to see how they deal with things together. Like, this is why relationships have become so dramatically jacked up. Most kids nowadays grow up in broken homes. Like, it's more than 50%. And there's a huge number of either black and I believe Mexican isn't as much. So I believe mostly in African American communities, where it's like 70% of men, boys, will grow up without a dad at all, involved at all. And then a lot of times the mom never like gets remarried and all this stuff. But you have all of these social dynamics that just result in children not having a good example of, one, what a man is, two, how a man is supposed to treat a woman, and then three, how a mother and a father interact in raising a child, so that they have that example of how dating is supposed to go, what marriage is, how men treat women, how women treat men. What is that dynamic like in a healthy way? We had a lot more of it, like in the late 1900s. And then in the 2000s, if you look at the statistics, they just plummet. The number of parents in the home plummet, predominantly dads who have gone, whether willingly or unwillingly, losing custody or bailing on their kids. And then as you see the nuclear family, things I complain about a lot, as you see the nuclear family become less and less, you see things like crime, sexual assault, prison time. All of these statistics jump, which makes absolute sense. If you don't have good examples on a day-to-day basis, morning to night, then how do you know how to go out into the world and do that? Where do you get it? You get it from TV, you get it from the internet. Nowadays, you get it from TikTok. And how beneficial are those sources? Garbage, trash.
Right.
It's a great point.
I 100% agree with that. And that's why, like, me as a boy mom, I feel like it's my responsibility to, like, tell him, hey, I love you, but this is how you treat a woman. This is how you respect women. This is how women want to be respected. And my husband is supposed to follow through with that and be like, yes, this is how everything is supposed to be. And hopefully one day if I have a daughter, I'll be able to tell her the exact same thing, because it all correlates with each other. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with what you were saying, is that these boys are growing up without a dad. These girls are growing up without a mom or a dad. And it's just like, you need both to have a steady and stable household.
Yeah. And most of it, honestly, is by osmosis. It's not even by like the talks that you give them. This is what a man is, and this is how you treat your woman. It's by them literally watching you, observing you. When you guys argue, how do you argue? What do you say to each other? When you guys do conflict resolution, how do you go about that? Is somebody yelling? Is somebody screaming? Does somebody throw something? Or are you guys having a coherent, loving conversation where both of you are listening to each other, you're repeating it back to each other, and they're watching? Like, that's what conflict resolution is. That's how you keep a marriage alive. That's how I respect my wife or my husband. It's all subconscious. Kids are little sponges. They just osmosis, soak. Way more than any like heart-to-heart conversation we have. They're gonna soak up just their experiences with you, and then they're gonna take that into the dating pool, and then they're gonna take that into their marriage.
Which like that is literally all the reason why like I personally, I don't know if it's controversial. I think like obviously quality of parent is like so much more important, because my best friend, like her dad left when she was really young. And so she sometimes has voiced to me how she's jealous that I have a dad. And I'm like, well, in some situations, sometimes if the dad leaves, it's better. And I know that sounds really pessimistic, but it's like, I get, I don't know.
My
I
husband
feel like
says the same
valuing.
thing.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It shouldn't be that way though. So that's
Yeah,
the source of a
yeah.
whole different problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, but you're right.
Because in my husband's situation, his dad kind of slept around a little bit. And he slept with my husband's half brother's mom, and then bailed and didn't talk to the kid at all. But he was abusive towards my husband, and he would call my husband up and say, I really wish that, he was there for me like he was there for you. And he turned around and he was just like, dude, I'd rather have him not be around me at all because he treated me like garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely happens, man. That's why all of this is so complex, is because it's also multifaceted. If you don't have healthy individuals, you're not going to have healthy relationships. And if you don't have healthy relationships, you're not going to be able to raise children in a healthy environment. It should never be the case that a father leaving is what's best for the kids. But again, like we were talking about before, that's ideologically, that's idealism. What is reality? Reality is some
Right.
dads are trash and they should get the hell out of the house. And then hopefully she can find the woman can find another man who's a good example, because it still does not benefit the kid to grow up in a single family home. There's in no case is that better than having a fully functioning family where a child gets to see both the male and the female, how they interact, how they argue, and just what that dynamic is like. But it's not always the reality. It's a product of a broken world. 100%.
Oh, yeah. This world is 100% broken.
More and more.
And I'm not saying it's like damage beyond repair, but I feel like that we just continue going on this downtrend, and it's not slowing down anytime soon.
Oh, for sure. For sure. We're on a straight trajectory down. But how do you fix that? How do you fix that if the world does not agree on what is right and what is wrong? How do you fix it if morality is subjective to culture? If every 10, 20 years people decide what is right and is wrong, nothing's cohesive. Nothing's consistent. You're just constantly chasing your tail about what is right now, what is right now. It's like one example, and we're not at all going to talk about politics, but one example is that on both political sides, like definitions of words are changing. Titles for groups of people are changing at such a rapid rate that we've never seen in politics in the history of the United States, that it's like impossible to know what anything is. The terms are changing so quickly. And like that, if morality, what is right and what is wrong, what is okay, what is acceptable and what is not, if these changes are changing so rapidly, so crazy, there's no way to have a cohesive, coherent society. Everybody's constantly trying to figure out what is right, what is wrong, what's okay, what can I say, what can't I say, how can I treat someone, how can't I treat someone.
And this is literally all, like, it all literally boils down to how terrible, I was going to say another word, the modern church is.
Yes.
Because what is one of the biggest topics right now? Like, I don't like in politics and stuff. Like, it's all pro-life, pro-choice. The church has a really strong opinion about that. Well, then why are victims of sexual abuse not getting the justice that they deserve? It's because the church doesn't talk about it as much. Like, if we want something to change, if we want something to go in the direction that is good, like the church has to pester the state about it, you know? Does that make sense?
I think kind of, but can you try to explain a little bit more? I think I get what you're saying, but why would our society listen to the church at all, even if it's about anything sexual?
Well, I mean, that's neither the church or the government really cares about that, but
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's just like, I just feel like every time the church heavily advocates for something, which I'm not saying at all. I'm not saying at, oh, hold on.
All right, last call while she gets her stuff together. Anybody who else wants to say something, you got to do it right now. So let me know. Otherwise, we're going to hop off before 55. I got to put kiddo to bed. And then if anyone has a suggestion or an idea for what we talk about next, let me know. And then we'll run a poll like we did last time, because I want you guys to kind of decide what we do and not me. And then it looks like she's still gone. So one thing, I said it in the Bible study, but I got to say it here too, because some of you guys weren't there. I have to split how we do this. So instead of doing a Bible study and then doing a group discussion twice a week, I can't do it. I'm killing myself. And work is crazy. So I have to split them. So what we're going to do is we're going to do just Bible study on Sunday night. That way we can also cover 2 chapters again, because doing 1 chapter is it gets really hard. There's not enough to cover. It's like we're burning through it very quick. I feel like we're rushing is really what it really is. I don't want to rush through studying the Bible. I want to take our time. I want to really cover it. Like us doing 1 Corinthians was in depth, and we had good conversations and we had good questions. I want to do that again, because I feel like we're just rushing through this to get to the group chat so that we can end before it's way too late. So I don't want to do it. So we're going to do a Bible study on Sunday night. We'll cover 2 or 3 chapters out of whatever we're reading and then discuss it afterward. And then Thursday nights, we'll do this group discussion on whatever the topic is. And then in the future, if I can manage doing another one like a different day, then we'll do it too. But this is way too much crammed in to one night that I want to give like adequate attention to each thing. And I feel very guilty about rushing through Bible study. So we're going to cut it right there. So Sunday night will be Bible study. Thursday night will be this. And hopefully we get more out of it that way. And people aren't staying up late, so maybe it works out better. Mystic, are you back or are you gone? Because if you're gone, we're probably just going to close out.
Joe, Rodriguez is trying to talk, but only we can hear her. She's not unmuted by you.
All right, she's good now.
Okay.
Rodriguez, there you are.
I forgot what I was saying.
Oh no!
I was hearing me. Oh, I think in terms of church caring about women and just being selective. I mean, I kind of halfway was joking. Like, I feel like they care about us in the womb, but that's it.
What?
You know?
Why do you think? I guess let me ask this: outside of your own personal experience, do you feel like the church as a system does not care about women?
Not that much, no.
And
Really don't.
Where does that come from in a general sense, not personal experiences? Because I know some of yours already.
I don't even have any experiences with abortion whatsoever. So it's not like that's personal, but just the fact that when you hear that they're more vocal about certain things like that, but I don't hear them speak up so much about, sexual assaults or exploitation. It's just not, it's not really there.
I mean, I agree. To be blunt. When Kat and I first moved to Chicago, I got asked to speak at Just Conference, which is a child sex trafficking conference in Minnesota. So it's child sex trafficking is something I was extremely involved in for a long time, because I agree that it's something that churches don't want to talk about because it's icky, and they don't want to bring up. And even adult sex trafficking, the women are anywhere from a very young age that I don't really feel comfortable saying, all the way up to like the end of their 30s. Still, it's this huge group, this huge demographic, and the church doesn't want to talk about any of it.
Well, aside from that, we'll just go with sexual assaults. No, I mean, I still hear a lot of the same crap, like, oh, what was she wearing? Or, just different things like, and no, it's
Gross.
not just experience, but I mean, you don't see them advocating very much for that. You just don't.
I agree. And honestly, I think if there's any church that ever says that a woman was assaulted because of what she was wearing, I think that's a church you should never have anything to do with.
Right. But just in general, like, for example, we'll take this whole anti-woke thing, right? And there's different, departments, I guess, that there is with all of that. But one of which is the Me Too movement. So when you say anti-woke, it is to some degree anti-Me Too movement. There was a whole hashtag, don't believe women. And yes, the church, I even seen we're part of that. And again, I don't want to get into politics either, but when certain politicians do certain things, or heck, even church leaders, it's minimized, it's trivial. It's insane to me. It's insane to me. And no, they don't care. They just don't.
I definitely agree to a point. A lot of that stuff becomes kind of complicated because at the same time, you have to at least consider the prospect of men going to prison when they don't deserve it, especially on a sex crime. Because
it's a small percent.
Yeah, but is one man going to prison for rape that he didn't commit? Is that okay at all? Or should we be very concerned about that?
But that's like a 1%. You got to understand.
I don't know about that.
Well, then I can give it to you. But 98% of sexual assaults don't even get convictions. I'm not going to lie. There's most cases where I would say you may not even report it. You should not report it because you will not win your case.
I agree. Which is sad. But at the same time, too, you also do have a lot of women who refuse to go get the rape kit and stuff like that. And I'm devil's advocate on both sides. Is like, if you can't prove a crime, it's unjust to send somebody to prison. And at the same time, just because you can't prove that it was done doesn't mean it wasn't done, and the woman still deserves justice. So that's why that shit is so hard, because some of the sex crimes are difficult to prove. If you can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, again, my opinion is that dude should be buried under the prison, and everybody else should play basketball above their body. I have absolutely zero tolerance for sexual crimes. But on the flip side, should we convict men without evidence? That's hard too. I also don't want to see a guy go to prison for a sex crime because I know what happens to them in there, and it's not nice. It's not fun. So I think women deserve justice, but at the same time, so do men. So it's hard. It's hard because of that, because sex crimes a lot of times are hard to prove. But if you can prove it, go to hell. Go to hell at best. You should be buried.
Yeah. And like you were saying, it's like a revolving door when it comes to sexual crimes. If we valued women, then there would be more serious sentences. Like I put in the chat, there's more severe sentences if you mess with an endangered animal.
Yeah.
Than a woman.
Yeah. And same with kids. I'm not trying to keep it political, but some are more passionate about protecting other things, and it's inhumane. For sure. And that messes with value and worth. I don't care who your daddy is. I don't care how you grew up or what's your environment. Like, it is what it is. No, I agree. I've always found that so hard because again, I've done a lot of work with trafficking victims. and rehabilitation, reintegration, things like that. So I've seen and heard the worst of the absolute worst. And anybody who's a part of any of that is, in my opinion, should be put to death. I do believe in the death penalty, whatever, but not for many things. But if you can prove somebody sexually violated somebody in a violent manner, I believe they should die, because I don't want any of that anywhere near anybody that I love. They should not be integrated into society, but it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think that's where it gets tough, because I've seen a lot of cases too, where like, it's pretty obvious the guy did it and there's a decent amount of evidence, and they do let him off, or he goes and does 24 months in a prison and gets right back out.
You understand, many times it doesn't even get to that. You understand that in most churches or even Christian schools or settings or places of employment, they don't report.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me.
It's wild.
A crime.
It's wild.
A felony.
They do it in the Catholic Church all the time. They just move them around.
Yeah. So
it's sick.
I agreed. So I just feel like we should clean that up more so than, other areas. Like I said, there's a huge gap justice there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like over 98%. So, let's put our passions and desires there before your gun or your, whatever the hell else can we please be more important sometimes?
I agree. But then what do you say about women having guns for protection then? I know you're anti-gun. So I'm pushing you a little bit.
I don't really, I mean, I'm from LA, and in the 90s it was something. I'm trying to help you get out on time though, Joe.
I know. Answer quick, and then Mystic's back, so we'll let her give her 2 cents after that.
Yeah, I mean, the gun, to be honest with you, with this thing that happened in Dallas, my boyfriend's nephew was working at the mall. Okay. So these things actually are happening. It's not fake news. It's not, you know what I mean? So I just don't understand how we even lost the respect of lives in that. Like, the very first thing I hear people jump to or see people jump to is boom the gun, whether it's protecting it or disputes over it. And it's like, holy crap, like, people died.
For sure, but I'm asking you about the woman. What about the woman? What about the woman who's trained to use a pistol to protect herself? How do we feel about that? Because it's not about the gun. It's about the woman and her life and her sexual safety.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know that you need to protect yourself with like an AK-47, but
no, agreed. The handgun would do. Agreed.
Yeah, I personally don't own one because I know I unfortunately don't have that instinct. I wish I did, but I don't.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. No, that's a good answer. As long as you're cohesive with your thoughts, which I know you are, but I just wanted to hear what you'd say. I think that's totally fair. Yeah. That's the thing. That's my biggest thing with guns, is that I wish more women were educated in how to use a handgun, because of all the stuff we're talking about. And because of, like I said, I've worked with a lot. So I know many things could have been stopped or at least mitigated had she had a handgun and was trained.
Yeah, I do have a sign though on my window that says, never mind the dog, beware of owner. And it has a picture of a gun pointing at you. I don't actually own one, but I just have that there. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, thanks. Yeah. You have anything else real quick?
No, I think I'm good.
Be here on time next time. Your input is valued. Okay.
Wait, I had it.
Okay. I know. Just kidding.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to throw you back on mute. Mystic, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
You're good.
I don't know what to say. Wait, what do you want me to say?
You were about to say something and then you left.
I was, but I didn't have those brain cells apparently. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all right. I mean, if you don't have anything, you don't have anything. Kat, did you want in, or are you just complaining in there?
I'm
Any
silently complaining to myself mostly,
okay,
like I do on my day-to-day life. But I
that's true.
mean, I've I've always got more. I can keep it short though.
Okay, is it about guns though?
No.
Okay, all right,
I
then
got
go ahead.
guns.
Save the
Do you
guns.
want it?
We'll no. We can do a gun discussion another time. We got to wrap this up. So keep it here.
I could go on for literal days about the whole modesty thing, but all in all, I guess I just want to end it. I just want to say that I don't think that women should be covered from head to toe. I really don't. I think that the rules in my high school with the 2 finger width for the tank top straps, I think that was a little bit ridiculous, but like I
Yeah.
do see their point, you know? And there were a lot of girls that would abuse that, like the cheerleaders and all the ones that were like favorited and gifted and special, but in reality, like freaking weren't at all. Like they were just on a cheerleading team or they just played soccer or something that like nobody really cared about, honestly. To like give them a special privilege to wear something that I would get dress coded for. Because I got dress coded all of the time. And again, like I've always believed in modesty. So it wasn't like I was walking around like a full-blown hoochie mama or whatever you want to call it, you know? But my whole thing is that I don't want anybody's lustful energy to be directed in my direction at all.
Yeah.
I just don't want that. Any kind of energy around you is affecting your energy. And I know that that sounds woo-woo and stuff, and I have a really hard time wrapping my own head around that kind of thing. But I do believe in it to a degree. I don't believe everything that, you know, certain people say about energy and everything because it is woo-woo to a point. But I do wholeheartedly believe in that. I don't want men to have a lustful thought about me because it's not good for me. I don't want that on me spiritually. That's not, no, most definitely not. So my part in it is to just still find something that makes me happy to wear without the thought of like I don't want to be seen a certain way. And it's not even culturally, like I don't want somebody to perceive me as, you know, like a prude, or I don't want to be conceived as like a slut or a woman or anything. I just literally don't want that attached to me spiritually.
Yeah.
And that is all it comes down to for me. And I said it last week or maybe the week before, I don't know. But when I'm home alone or when Joe's home too, like I'm in short shorts and like I'm in comfortable clothing and stuff because I'm at home, and like my neighbors are very respectful and you know, like they've never looked into our house, thank God, because otherwise like I wouldn't be able to do that and I would be a little cranky about that because I enjoy having my windows open, you know. But I just believe that like when you step out of your house and you're in public, you should be presenting yourself a certain way. And in my experience, presenting myself in a certain fashion, metaphorically and literally, has gotten me a lot of places that I'm so grateful for. Like I've met incredible people, and it's because I held myself in a certain fashion, again, literally and otherwise. My whole thing to end it with is that I don't want somebody's negative energy on me. And it's at the end of the day, it's not my problem, but it's also what I'm putting out into the world. It does reverberate, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
That's also why I try not to judge people when I see them. Past the extent of like, is that person going to come at me and do I need to defend myself? Obviously. Or that person is talking to me and I don't know, like my neighbor, like I'm judging him because I want to know if like he sucks or not. Do I want to be friends with him? Do I want to introduce him to Joe and like have them be friends? What about his wife? Does she suck? Like I do need to make those judgments. It's vital for survival, but that's all I want to say about it because otherwise like I feel like I might go too far and like I like you guys, so there's that.
Okay. Shannon, did you have something? This would be last.
Wait, one more thing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
What?
I would like to point out that when you mentioned the Just Conference, a big part of what you and I had read about on the drive up there pertained to how much we don't see, hear, or any statistic around men and boys that are also sexually abused. And I'm not trying to take the spotlight off of women at all, but
No, it's a good point.
It isn't just women, and it is men against men, and it's also sometimes women like sexually abusing men and boys too. I just think that's something to think about. And it also goes to show that it's not about what she's wearing, which neither of us believe at all
Yeah.
in the slightest.
No, that's a
I
good
just wanted
point.
to put that out there because that's also heartbreaking.
Yeah. No, very good point. That's true. A lot of people are very ignorant to the statistics of young boys who are trafficked and who are raped and who are in those situations too. We focus on women a lot. I think, women to men is obviously a very low number, but it's not negligible. Anybody being sexually assaulted should be talked about and cared about. But the number of young boys who are sexually assaulted is wildly high compared to what the general public believes about it. Shannon, did you have anything last? We got to close out. I'm already late, as usual.
So Kat brought up a really good point. So in the Commonwealth of Virginia, rape means penetrating the vagina. So when I asked a police officer about, well, what happens to little boys or what happens to grown men, this is a high military state. There's a lot of people coming in and out. What laws protect them? And they said nothing.
Wow.
So me having a little boy where, sex trafficking is very much a thing in all 50 states, unfortunately.
Yep.
It just gives me more incentive to get the hell out of here because I don't want, my son to, God forbid, be a victim to something like that happening to him, and then he basically can't do anything about it because it doesn't count as rape. So it's very scary.
Yeah. That's wild. That's extremely scary. God.
Yeah.
Sexual assault should be sexual assault. I mean, if you want to specify it past that, cool, specify it for sure. But yeah, that's scary. That's scary.
It's terrifying. I would be terrified to be a male in this state.
Yeah, that's wild. Jesus. Okay. All right. Well, we got to pray quickly, and then I have to run and put a child to bed. So we wrapped up Modesty for the most part. I think I have a feeling it's going to come up in other places at other times to some degree, which is good because honestly, especially Sunday, we got into some really deep things. And then today there were a few, like the morality issue, which is probably something we should at some point talk about because morality is the overarching concept or ideology or thought process that it's really involved in everything. It's involved in everything we do, everything we say, everything we believe more than anything. And if we don't cohesively believe or coherently believe what we believe about morality and how it interacts with the world and how it shapes the world, then it's really hard as a Christian to defend your faith because our faith is primarily stanced in morality. Everything we believe is backed by this concept of morality, this concept of objective morality. Not my morality, not your morality, but God's morality. And that due to the fact that we are made in God's image and due to the fact that we choose out of free will to continue to live our lives based off of what he wants and what his plan was, etc., we're all grounded in that morality. So if we don't understand that on a relatively deep level, to the point that you could defend it, then I feel like we're slipping into that somewhat lukewarm zone. Because if you can't, it's a biblical thing. If you can't defend your faith, you can't defend anything. If you can't stand firm in your faith, you won't stand at all, out of Isaiah. Like there's a lot to that. And we need to be able to do that. And morality is the biggest thing because all of our little beliefs, all of our little ideologies, all of these little concepts, they're all grounded in morality. So maybe that'd be something we talk about soon. But let's pray. So God, thank you for another opportunity to do this. This is always really refreshing to some degree. Sometimes it's pretty challenging, but even when it's challenging, it always ends up being really good. Great things are coming from this, at least for me personally. Everybody here makes me think about something in a different way. And every time I get to respond to something, it makes me understand things kind of in a different way. And it's been really, really beneficial for me personally. I want to pray for Karina, who has I believe it's her best friend, who has breast cancer. We just pray for healing. We pray for just for general comfort as she goes through whatever that process is going to look like for her, and that she keeps good spirits, keeps good attitude, gets good people around her so that she's able to get through that with a good attitude and with her good head on her shoulders, steady straight. I also want to pray for Teal out of our group here, who is not here tonight due to the fact that she broke her arm. She's been a hot mess. So we pray that she takes it easy, slows down a little bit, doesn't trip over any more carpet, and keeps all of her bones, intact and straight and unfractured. She's a beautiful person. We really miss her tonight. So we pray that she's doing all right. She's relaxing. She's healing. She's not in too much pain. And that she gets through that quickly and easily and without too much strife. Beyond that, God, as usual, we just want to pray for culture. Culture's broken. Some of the things we talked about tonight, we want to pray for everybody and anybody who has been trafficked, who knows somebody who's been trafficked. We want to pray that our culture and our country specifically start to take some kind of action against sex trafficking. Today, we have more slaves than at any point ever in history in the entire world, and the majority of them are sex slaves to some degree. That needs to sink in with our culture. That needs to sink in with each individual, and people need to really start caring about that reality, because it's very, very sad. It's very damaging, and it's debilitating on a socioeconomic level for our society. It makes things crumble. It makes individuals crumble. It makes their spirits crumble. So we pray that anybody who is in that is able to get out, obviously, but is able to find some peace, is able to recover, is able to recuperate from it, gets mental health services, and is able to build a functioning, proper life after the fact. We also want to pray just for culture, politics, everything in general that's going on in our country right now. There's a lot of absolute craziness. Everybody's all over on different sides. I pray that within a Christian context, regardless of who anybody votes for, we can all stay together. We can all stay respectful. We can all stay loving each other, because at the end of the day, political things are not why we're here. Spiritual things are why we're here. Political people are not who we back. You are who we back. So I hope that everybody here at least keeps all of that in mind as they go throughout their normal day-to-day life, as they're interacting with people on the internet, that these political figures, these governmental figures are not our God. They're not who we emulate. They're not who we idealize. You are. And that we can all just keep our eyes focused on you. God, I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Y'all have a lovely evening. And Sunday night will be just Bible study. So it'll be Acts 19 and 20. And then sometime this weekend, I'll put a poll out for what you guys want to do for this group discussion. And that will be Thursday. So every Sunday, Bible study on YouTube. Every Thursday, group discussion on Discord.